I would say that the most important impact was that Kazakhstan, during this accession process, during these 19 years of accession, has implemented a wide range of economic reforms. More than 50 laws were amended, some new laws were adopted, and many hundreds of regulations in the area of external trade, foreign trade regulation were changed, and the whole idea and the objective of these changes was to improve the trade, business and investment environment in Kazakhstan. And I think that this was the biggest impact. And now Kazakhstan is on the next stage of its reforms, and Kazakhstan has an ambition to become a member of the OECD, of the Club of Developed Countries. All these countries are WTO members, and now when Kazakhstan is a WTO member, Kazakhstan also can negotiate the accession to the OECD. And now the government of Kazakhstan, all the ministries and agencies, they work on reforms related already to compliance with the standards set by the OECD. Business in Kazakhstan is very active, and we have a national chamber of entrepreneurs, Atamiken, which participates in all the negotiations related to trade or economic development. And I can give you one of the most recent examples. In February 2017, the trade facilitation agreement entered into force. It is the latest WTO agreement which was adopted by the members of the WTO, and Kazakhstan as a member has to comply. And our entrepreneurs, this chamber, Atamiken, they participated in the drafting of the new customs code of the Eurasian Economic Union, and in the drafting of the new customs code of Kazakhstan, as well as in the drafting of all the regulations to implement this customs code. And I can say that the new customs code, which entered into force from the 1st January 2018, has a lot of novelties which aimed at improving the cross-border trade and facilitating foreign trade. I can say that there are provisions which, for example, provide new mechanisms for development of authorized economic operators, and there is a possibility also for development of for use of single window and for electronic declaration and other new provisions which are aimed at trade facilitation, and businesses for sure will benefit from this. From our experience, I can say that we have invited representatives of business associations to participate in our bilateral and multilateral negotiations held in Geneva or in the capitals of key WTO members with whom we had our bilateral negotiations. So we invited them, for example, to the meetings of the Working Party on the accession of Kazakhstan, where they could see themselves how the process goes and what sort of questions the WTO members ask, and how important it is for Kazakhstan to be well prepared for the reforms which are requested by the WTO membership. So many negotiations are held in Geneva, and it is extremely important to have a team of experts based in Geneva in the permanent mission of the acceding country in Geneva. And these people that are based in Geneva, they participate in daily work of the organization. First of all, they learn from the WTO members. They learn from the WTO Secretariat, and they see how the whole system works. And secondly, they have a possibility to have daily contacts with representatives of the permanent missions of the WTO members with whom this country is holding the accession negotiations. And it is also important, we found at certain stage of our negotiations that it is very, very useful and helpful to have diplomats in, for example, in Washington and in Brussels, who would be directly in charge also on WTO accession negotiations and work very closely with our partners in the United States Trade Representative's Office in Washington and in the European Commission in Brussels. So we had to also visit, our negotiating team had to visit these places many times, especially at the final stages of the accession, in order to accelerate the accession negotiations. And it helped a lot that we had people working in Washington and Brussels. And I would recommend to Azerbaijani government to look at it as well. Yes, as an example, I can say that one of the, I would call it positive side effects of the accession negotiations is the fact that we strengthened our bilateral relations with our traditional trade and economic partners like the United States, like the European Union and other members, Canada, Australia. At the same time, we could establish new economic relations with countries like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador or Dominican Republic, with whom we didn't have any economic relations before. And this accession process helped us to learn more about them and also gave the opportunity to them to open for themselves our country. In a way, Kazakhstan became visible to the world, and those countries that became the members of the Working Party and initiated bilateral negotiations with us, they opened up the new opportunities for themselves, and they found that there is a great potential in future development of trade and economic relations between our countries. I can give you, for example, a very concrete case we had, like right after the conclusion of bilateral negotiations on goods and services market access with Brasilia, with the government of Brazil. In couple of months already, a big delegation of Brazilian businesses visited Kazakhstan. So I think the accession process can bring this sort of outcomes which you didn't really plan or expect.